No, and Israelis are not always Jewish people either. About 45% of the Jewish people now live in Israel. But around 25% of the citizens of Israel are not Jewish. There are Israeli Arabs, and Armenian Israelis, Israeli Druze, Israeli Circassians and even Israeli Vietnamese. And other non-Jewish citizens of Israel too. I am not quite sure why you asked this. Obviously, there are Jews in many countries, including the US. However, under Israeli law, any Jew has the right to move to Israel and become a citizen regardless of immigration quotas. One reason for this is that Israel's reason for existence is the belief that there must be some place on the planet for Jews to live. Nevertheless, most Jews living outside of Israel consider themselves to be citizens of the countries in which they live and have no interest in moving to the Middle East. Should anti-Semitism reach a tipping point, however, moving to Israel could become the only viable alternative. For example, suppose that QAnon gains control of our government. No. An Israeli is somebody that is a citizen of the State of Israel, which means that not everyone that is an Israeli is Jewish, as close to 25% of Israel's population is not Jewish. On the other hand, a Jew is someone who follows the Jewish religion, and only 45% of those live in Israel. The two terms are not synonymous. Some Israelis are not Jews and not all Jews are Israeli. When I was a child growing up in New York in the 1950s, there were more Jews in the city of New York than in Israel. If present demographic trends continue, always a big if, we will have a majority of the world's Jews living in Israel within my lifetime. But all? No, that will take a long time, if it ever happens. Or it would require a major disaster from which they would all be fleeing to here. Not all Jews wish to be Israelis, although more and more do. Not at all. They are all over the place, and the USA is a prime example of how a culture and such can contribute and reach the heights of heights. There could be some horrible Celticism Mideast, of course, so as the survivors of the human species they will endure more so than any other group, I bet. So much history to emulate, no other culture can claim so much, though Christians and Nero have done much for Catholics.